1 sec. There we go. We're into game. We're onto the Rift. And the other reason that Shen is really good here is it counters Renekton. How does Renekton dive in and stun someone? You can't.
True.
You just put up the Spirit's Refuge and say, no, mate. A lot of the CC on the side of Sky is auto-attack based. Twisted Fate gold card, Nautilus passive, Renekton choppy chop, all auto-attack. Spirit's Refuge cancels all of it.
Yeah, they run into a problem actually where I think Voshaden might come into play here because it's also not the lethal tempo like Xayah, which is like the like crit Xayah, which is more helpful for team fighting, even though it's worse in like the laning phase. And it's just going to be the lethality Xayah. So there comes a point in the game where you're going to have like 14 fighting a Renekton, a Hecarim who's got some decent damage, Twisted Fate, and a lethality Xayah, which doesn't really yield that much. And like you said, since it's a lot of like attack-based stuff, Taki's going to be able to live forever without really doing all that much. Ultimate's going to be able to protect somebody that they're trying to dive onto. Like there's a lot of value here for Saigon Buffalo's composition. Once again, Ren is knocking it out of the park with some of this like innovation when it comes to picks and things. And here, I think a pretty forward-thinking idea, just trying to make sure that the Shen is ahead of its time right now.
Yeah, we will have to see how it goes. Of course, one of the big things with Shen supporters is just you don't get a huge amount of value in the early game. And now, I'm not sure what happened at level 1, but Draktar's Ghost is down as Elio taking a lot of damage. That's a good hook to try and stop Taki, but our Mine still getting trucked. Can't quite get the finish. But SGB's bot lane are really flexing their muscles.
Yeah, I seem to remember when Shen support, especially this iteration, first came out, and it was like a souped-up version of what set support is in the modern day, where it doesn't even matter what you're supposed to be doing as a support in the laning phase. You flash with your E at level 1, and that's it. If you do that, and you burn a flash from the other support, or from the other ADC, you've already pretty much won the laning phase, because of just how aggressive that you can play from that standpoint forward. And it looks like Taki was able to do that without even using the flash, so if you can find a flash taunt later, all of a sudden things get even more tumultuous for Amine and Elio on the bottom side. Even though Amine actually preserved the summoner, so that's a little bit terrifying when all things are considered. But like you said, Drakthar with no ghost means it's a little harder to gank. BJ is actually kind of beelining towards the bottom side after having taken Cop Crab, and has the opportunity potentially to gank. That wave on bottom side actually bounced off the tower of Amine and Elio. It's back in the middle, and they're pushing out a little bit too far, especially given that BJ just passed through the middle of the map.
I mean, I'm going to just say that I would love to know what happened at level 1. We did just miss it due to them not transitioning early enough. But it has gone very badly for Sky as in goes Lee Sin. Do they actually have the damage to kill Elio? Yes, they do. Taki will actually go down. That's a huge misplay. So in the end, it's just a 1-for-1.
Yes, you did get your first blood for Shogun, which I think is eventually a very popular play. They couldn't really go after Xayah right there just because, again, the summoners were up. They had to make sure that Elio was going to go down. And it looked like Taki didn't pop the W to start with in an attempt to get like the W or the auto attacking from the Nautilus denied. Instead was trying to use it to kind of throw off back end damage from Amine. But getting rooted underneath the tower was really the cause of his demise in the end anyway, so it didn't matter. So it is just a 1-for-1. But you'll take that for the Kaisa. The faster you can get onto that empowered Q, the easier it is the laning phase ends up being. And the faster that the laning phase, I think, doesn't have to be played out, the easier it is for Taki to start roaming, which I think is just a better use for the Shen. As outside of the laning phase, he's a lot more valuable as a pest more than inside the laning phase, where the Nautilus isn't going to contribute that much.
They're coming back, though, as BJ's made another trip to the bot lane. Elio sent straight back to the depths. There is no escape. As BJ actually committed the flash there just to get that last boot into the face. But a kill's a kill, Rebel.
Absolutely is continuing to punish Elio, who has had probably the roughest split of anybody on Sky, because I think the previous split before, Elio got quite a bit of hype, given just how talented that VCS looked. And so Elio, this split, who's kind of regressed back into the state they found themselves in. Okay, Froggy's just getting kind of eviscerated. Nice flash of the wall gets him out of that precarious situation. But Drakthar able to burn the flash of the mid laner here, which is kind of nice. But yeah, like I was saying, Elio getting bullied a little bit. Has been perhaps the worst performing member on side of the squad, which is a lot to say, given just how bad the squad has been.
Yeah, we can see there the value of this Shen up against the Nautilus. Elio just doesn't have counterplay. He's halfway through swinging the anchor when the refuge comes out.
And at that point, it's just a matter of, do you have your hook still? But if you burn your hook in an attempt to get away and he decides to, go taunting through your model, then immediately that means that you're going to hook onto the champion that's getting through you. You're going to be taunted. You're going to be forced to throw auto attacks. Those W's aren't going to accomplish anything. And then, you now don't have the ability to use your W as an auto cancel. Your shield is just going to have to get popped anyway. And BJ's been taking advantage of this. They're taking advantage of the Shen matchup into the Nautilus, which I think is pretty nice to see. That Saigon Buffalo had something like this in their back pocket.
I am curious what kind of Kai'Sa we will be seeing. So far, we've just got a Warhammer and a tier, so nothing really being given away. I think all versions of Kai'Sa kind of do that. But if you've got any insight, I'd love to hear it.
It's always Manamune start. In this particular case, I think it will end up being better not to go for like any kind of AD variant, instead to continue to go for this Ludens variant we see. Mostly because, again, the damage that's coming out from Sky is all like auto attack based, and so that's Twisted Fate and Xayah mostly, and then you've got only melee champions. So if you're hitting people for a third of their health bar with a W from very far away, I think that's a lot more valuable for Shogun than trying to auto attack battle when you're up close and giving the potential for Glory or Aamine to hit him with a stun or any kind of feathers or things like that. It just takes away that counterplay if you go for the AP, which is not something I like to say because I'd rather see interaction between champions. But if you really want to play out a game like this, it's no different than playing just like another Jace, but with a bunch of AP. And the difference also is, of course, that like the plasma stacks means that you can get percentage health damage in the right situation, which is just not okay as well. AP is kind of disgusting.
Ooh, Froggy did miss. That was a bad E, and just miscalculating the damage there is BJ's. He actually boots Glory to safety. Not what you want to see out of the Lee Sin.
Yeah, it looked to me like the boot actually came out slightly before the end of the Q animation, and not only is that bad because the Q animation damage missed, but also that means the ultimate would have done more damage if he had waited out the Q second proc, because it does execution damage behind it. So he lived with like 100 health. Not only would the Q maybe have made that difference, but even if it didn't make that difference, the execute almost certainly would have made the difference with the missing health that was still there. So I don't know. That was just a bit of mistiming between BJ and Froggy in an attempt to do something. They do punish Glory, I guess, a little bit off the health trade. They, especially at like immediately the level 6, level 7 mark, preventing Glory from getting out and about on the map and starting to make an impact anywhere. So there's that gets slowed down, but that's about all you can say. At least BJ is being very active to start this game. It's been very good watching BJ continue to pick up the way that he had in spring 2021 with all this very active, aggressive type early game play.
Yeah, that is always good to see. So far, yeah, the mechanic's not 100% perfect out of BJ, but nevertheless, the map moves and the macro have been very, very spot on. We do have a bit of a CS league growing down in this bot lane. About 10 CS will separate them, and I suppose that's what happens when the jungler dedicates quite so much time. Froggy, gotta hit those chains, mate.
Rough.
Gotta hit something.
Yeah, he's gotta hit something. Now, again, this is also, I know it's your favorite champion. Ooh. I'll hold this.
He just surfs away. There's a TF ult being used. They actually want... That's a kill. He came in with a red card. He just came in
Glory.
with a red card. Rebel! I'm losing my mind!
If I had to guess, if I'm going to attempt to give Glory benefit of the doubt here...
It might have been a double tap RNG situation.
Yeah, it might have been a double tap RNG.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're aggressive.
Oh, they've got the Shen ult coming on in. That's perfect. The Stand United is good. Elio to make the space was kicked away. Froggy coming in once again, misses the abduct. But that's okay. They'll take the kill. They'll walk on out.
Yeah, my only thought right here for Twisted Fate was that maybe he actually was getting pressured by Froggy because it kind of looked like the ultimate was getting stolen, and so he was just rushing as fast as possible to get into the bottom side play. But yeah, it was weird why you pulled the red card. BJ got this really wonderful wraparound, which I think was cool. And again, you can play a lot more aggressively as the Twisted or as the Lee Sin in a lot of situations because you've got the backup of the Shen. It's not something we've seen for a very long time because Shen hasn't been around all that much. And like you said, we're like a step or a pair of completed boots from Froggy away from him hitting like an E right there, getting another kill or two in the back pocket of all of Saigon Buffalo. But ultimately, this pressure has also led to another dragon going into their favor in exchange for the Rift Herald on the top side. So Saigon Buffalo, more than comfortable taking this game. It's a later game territory. It's up to Sky again to have this amazing mid-game where they're able to kind of turn the gold lead back into their own favor. What happened here?
This was just a kill. Apparently, just was found. Shogun came in with the ult, and yeah, it does a lot of damage. It's a double kill for Shogun. This is a big old Kai'Sa.
That's massive, actually. Being able to set your Kai'Sa into such a valuable position. Again, items are so important for the Kai'Sa to be able to get the upgrades, especially the first one, because you got the Q upgrade now with the Manamune done, and then with the one longsword is enough for Shogun to actually have Q upgrade over top of Zaya, who's running this very early game type build. And so spiking past this early game for Shogun means, again, putting him into a position where he can carry in the later stages, looking very akin to what what they were trying to do against the side of Sky in SEA Games. That worked for 3 games basically without considering the one that they did lose. This was kind of the bread and butter cookie cutter type way that the games were playing out in effective ability.
Yeah. Now, Rebel, with how this early game has gone, Husmed has been free to just farm it up. We see him just completing the Eclipse. He has a tier. Drakthar has picked up a tier, but kind of late. I actually like getting it on first back. It's you don't have to complete the Muramana for quite a long time. Just grabbing the tier early, I think, is good. Does the tier on the Hecarim kind of make you feel better about the Voshaden issue, or are we still a bit worried?
So, I really do like tier on Hecarim for either Manamune or for Fimbulwinter. I think both of them are fantastic options. But so far, I feel like Drakthar has wasted the Hecarim's early game because you've got some powerful ganking tools, and we just haven't seen a lot from Drakthar to begin this game. It's been BJ that's kind of commanded everything, and there's not even this commanding like CS lead either from Drakthar, where he's up like an entire camp rotation after BJ's been ganking most of the early game. They're tied in farm, which is to me the most disastrous. And like you said, the tier is late, and you don't have to get the Manamune done first, but the chem tank isn't done yet either, which I think is problematic, and that's going to slow down the tier item for at least a little bit of time. It's going to open up this mid game maybe for Saigon Buffalo to have some counterplay.
Potentially, but I mean, the thing is, I just think it's really hard. As you were saying, perhaps Drakthar has just waited a little bit too long in that. Where do you go? I don't think maybe you can go kill Jace, but I'm not sure how much, like, obviously a kill's a kill, it's always nice, but I don't know how much that does for you at this point. I don't think you can go bot. I just think you get 2v3'd. It's a 3-0 Kai'Sa. She's large.
Yeah. It's a position where, like, if you were striking at the very beginning of the game, you kind of expected for bottom lane to not be great. What I would have done is I would have been attacking number 1 Froggy, who's playing in a melee versus a range matchup. You could try to set the Twisted Fate in a good place where all of a sudden the roaming comes through and there's no chance the laning phase goes badly for Glory. Because right now, Glory just loses ambiently in the laning phase because all of a sudden Silas is powerful enough to just beat him on his own. And like you said, attacking the Jace at this point probably isn't that useful because Jace is almost to 2 items unscathed, which is just, again, you're not doing anything to deny the Jace gold. But if you do this at the beginning of the game when things are actually starting off, you can potentially put the Renekton onto such a good foot that he himself can deny gold from Hosmed by being more powerful in the laning phase. But because they've left those two completely alone, now Hosmed's sitting on 150 CS and nearly 2 item Jace, like, without anything. And so it doesn't matter if you hit him with like 3 ganks in a row, he's still going to have 2 completed items with no problem. Your Renekton isn't all of a sudden going to become enough of a beast in the laning phase to just completely shut Jace out at this point, like you could have if you had been attacking 10 minutes prior.
Yeah, and we are getting that AP Kai'Sa, just something that I wanted to refer back to because we weren't 100% sure. So this is a mean poke comp now. Even if the Renekton does get kind of big, maybe, we're not at this point yet, but if something happens where Ryuk can deny the side lanes from Husmed, doesn't matter, just play a poke comp.
Yep. And the problem with like a poke composition, especially against Sky's composition, is that they've got 1 really good way to contest the backline, maybe 2 if you count the ultimate from Twisted Fate in the mid lane trying to dive into the backline with Hecarim. But you've got Lee Sin, who's able to boot people out. You've got Silas, who's more than willing to be able to kind of scrap at a very low range. And nobody's going to be able to beat probably the Silas in just a one-on-one, be it Renekton, be it Hecarim in the later stages. So it basically opens up for this Jace, who now he just pulled first tower of the game on his own.
Going in, using the Feather Storm, the worst Silas ult imaginable. Shen coming in to support. Taki should just be able to walk this one out. Nautilus ult is being committed, as is the Twisted Fate. This is going to be a huge play down towards the bottom side. Can they kill Froggy? He will be the first one to go down. Now Taki on the run, but Zaya dives to the tower. It's only an execute, but still a little bit silly, but a good play for Sky as a TP is being committed here. There's no Shen to follow up. Husmed is here. Kabang goes the shock blast, but Elio will survive. Husmed with the flash. This is such a high play. He got bored in the top lane, Rebel, as in comes Taki as well. They lock it up with the taunt. BJ coming in. It's a disjointed play coming out of SGB, but it just doesn't matter because they trust each other. They're a family, Rebel, and they know that they're backing each other up.
Saigon Buffalo with a play to the bottom side as a response to what had happened top side. Sky goes diving, right? They're making an attempt to get this play underway. And Froggy's on his own underneath this tower. I don't know why he grabbed this ultimate for anything other than just anticipation that this defense was going to come through. Yeah, the passive proc coming through. And then obviously 3 people end up with him. The ultimate coming through from Taki to defend Froggy was pretty big as well. But again, there's so many people heading towards bottom side in attempts to punish this. That was kind of, it was crazy to think how much they actually put into just punishing Froggy in an attempt to get this. And it bought so much time. Again, the top side was already pushed. You can see mid lane is getting punished. And for some reason, the call is actually made from Hosbed. He just goes, yeah, let's go fight this right now. I feel powerful, which is strange because he's still a relatively early game Jace, but you can see how well it works out. Taki gets a wrap back around and is still powerful on the Shen with a very low range. And their damage just isn't there when all of their cooldowns got burned. Just diving Froggy underneath this big tower, diving Taki underneath this tower. And you can see the ramifications of what happens there when they get punished on the backside of the play because they've got no cooldowns left.
Now, Froggy locked it down in the top lane. Yeah, no escaping that one, I feel.
Nope. And they're kind of doing the Caitlyn thing where they're playing around the one member of the team, just making sure to put all the gold that they can into Amine's back pocket. But again, Amine is not going to interact with Hosmed in the late game. Amine is not going to interact with Shogun in the late game. This feels like a weird decision to lean this heavily into one side. This is the mid game play. I think that comes in very commonly from Sky. The difference is that most of the time when teams have problems like this, they don't respond well. But Saigon Buffalo has set up cross-map plays twice now where Hosmed's been able to be the benefactor of both sides by being the person who pushes down an additional tower, which means this Jace has picked up so much ambient gold in exchange for this cross-map counterplay that, Burst the Sky has been opting for. And it's really preventing them from making this gold lead go away because this gold is still trickling into the pockets of the Jace, who's going to be even more of a problem than the Silas is going to be in the later stages.
Yeah, I really feel like there's a bit of a misread here out of Sky. Maybe they were just taking what they can get, always a possibility. But does Silas have to be fed in this game? Because I don't think he does. No. I think he just needs to steal a Hecarim or a Nautilus ult, just alternate them every fight and just play bouncer. And just let Shogun and Husmed poke forever.
I agree. Yeah, this is a composition that yields so much better results when you're actually just playing passively and the Silas is doing nothing, right? It's, if you're doing something right, people won't think you're doing anything at all type composition for Froggy, where it's like, okay, if they come diving into your backliners, then all of a sudden you get to get scrappy and you get to get crazy. And like you said, you get a Hecarim ultimate, you get even like a Renekton ultimate or a Nautilus ultimate, very valuable for keeping yourself alive and just defending others by scrapping with them as soon as they run in. But all things considered right now, you've got a 2-item Jace, 2.5-item Jace at this point. You're sitting on 2.5-item Kai'Sa. You're feeling great about where your poke is landed in a game like this. So at this point, I think it's really difficult to find anything aggressive for the side of Burst the Sky other than Froggy, like you said, maybe being opportunistic at best. And looking for more plays now. They're
going in onto Husband, but Glory just gets one shot!
Wow.
Drakthar has to ultimate just to try and keep himself alive as Froggy has come in to join the party. The rest of Sky are getting wiped out. That's a lovely Everfrost there to lock up Ryuk. BJ, Nautilus ulted, holds him back for a moment. Froggy still lives. They get nothing out of this as the Lee Sin Q lands, but BJ will not be listening to his heart as he doesn't follow it in. That's a huge win for SGB.
Massive, because they're going to be able to pull mid-tower. And Mine already taking half of his health bar from just the Luden's completion from Shogun. No additional AP has been completed at all. And it's not going to matter for the side of Saigon. They don't care anything else that can happen. They can grab this Baron. The tools are gone from the side of Sky to be able to really team fight. So if they want to contest, they can contest here. But again, they're down so many of their tools. Really, Saigon just has to hit them with a little bit of poke on the way in. You've got 2 members only just now deploying. Froggy is going to be able to catch them on their way in as well. It's already at 2,000 health. It seems likely they're going to get much here on the backside of this play.
Stolen Twisted Fate ultimate. If they want to do something, they're just using it for info. I like that a lot. They know the route that is safe to leave. Glory can only really throw out an Everfrost. Froggy TP's over to clear up a wave. So it's going to be even hard for Sky just to get a tower as Almine hit with a shock blast. Gets absolutely rocked and rolled. Mid-tower falls, but SGB want to avenge it as in goes Taki with a flash taunt. There's a boot in onto Elio as well. Desire's already down the Hecker and will be joining them, and 4 members of Sky have been sent to hell. There's the ace, SGB. They're just too good.
Man, I love what I just saw from SGB, because it would have been super simple for them to back and say, okay, we can sack mid tower in exchange for this Baron buff and just go take more gold. But they say, we've got the health, we've got the tools. Again, they're missing everything that they need in order to take a fight like this. So we're just going to hang out outside the tower, and it just compounds this lead even further. You can see, like you said, the shock blast hit Aomida to start with. Drakthar was already half health before the fight really started, and Taki finds this amazing angle to be able to get onto Aomida, force him out of a fight, and a big kick kind of prevents any additional counterplay from coming through. By the time that a fight actually kicks off to where Burst the Sky has any ability to interact at all with Saigon Buffalo with abilities and such, they've already lost their entire bits of health bar. They don't have any ability to compete up against the side of Saigon Buffalo because they'd already won the fight before things had really started for Burst the Sky. So this mid game just doesn't exist, where like all of a sudden Burst the Sky had these openings. They started attacking side lane a little bit and punishing Froggy, but those 2 punishments looks like all they're really going to be able to get in a game like this because of just how well that Saigon Buffalo have been able to set themselves up, not only for getting cross map plays, but also for setting up this massive team fight, setting up these poke members into great success.
And I look, we've talked a lot about SGB's comp, as Twisted Fate Ultimate is... He was on Vision.
He was also in top lane.
Yeah, but like if he's off Vision, you can do it to scare them, right?
Sure.
And just use the first half of the ult, but he was on Vision. That was shocking. Shogun just jumps on in, is actually denied by the Featherstorm, needs to play this one a little bit carefully, but it just doesn't matter when the rest of the team is arriving to help him out. The Kai'Sa will fall, but it's traded for 2 members of BTS. Ryuk tagged up, in they go. They want to take down the Crocodile, get themselves a lovely little purse. They do that one well, and it's just Glory with a whole lot to do.
I'm completely lost anything that just happened for Burst the Sky.
I mean,
I know the ult to the top lane could have been a fake.
FF.
Yeah, professional FF. Yeah, that's fair. Things could not have gone more disastrously. The bottom lane kind of fell to pieces. You did nothing to salvage top lane. Mid lane didn't go great, and again, you're kind of in a losing matchup there where you weren't able to get anything done as Glory. This was tough from the beginning. Again, not only was the draft a little bit rough, you had this big front line, but again, your damage was missing. You didn't get your 1 damage member ahead. It was tough all across the board from Sky. I felt like they were lacking any kind of idea of what they wanted to do with their comp. They couldn't actually execute on it, even if they had that idea. And Saigon Buffalo got gold where they needed it to. You could see just how much that Hospit's picked up in just the last 10 minutes. You could see 7 kills now on a Shogun, feeling fantastic, going into a needlessly large rod. I know I had seen a longsword in that inventory. He must have sold the longsword for the needlessly large rod because he understands what the W's are actually doing to this poor team. I think if he hits Aomine with a shock blast from Hospit and they just one-tap him, there's no counterplay for Aomine. He presses his ultimate and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, in this fight, Shogun definitely getting very hyphy. Probably doesn't want to go this deep, but it just doesn't matter. Look how far ahead he is.
Yeah, and how much damage was actually poured in, because you saw the Nautilus had gone down basically before the fight had even really started. The Drakthar went down, Aomine went down, and again, there's no consistent damage once Aomine is down. They don't have the Zaya to be able to put out the damage that they need, and that's really the one damage dealer they've got. So now it's just the Saigon. It's their game. They're wiping up towers and stuff at this point. Bottom 2 inhibitors are down. They're just going to wipe up the 3rd one here. Ryuk is still catching on bottom side. I feel like they should give up, but you can see, what are you supposed to do about that? The poke is there for this team. You have no counterplay. The W's coming out from the guys of the Q, coming out from the J. Look at that. What are you supposed to do?
I feel like poke is not the right term. I feel like if I fired, a fixed artillery piece at you, you wouldn't say I poked you. As in goes Froggy. Goes gold immediately. He is really in the wrong side of the tracks. Taki coming in to try and save him. He actually does just flash on out, so no member of Sky will go down, but Froggy definitely forced some investment from them as they are just trying to end this game. SGB pushing in towards the Nexus. Sky, if you're going to fight, you have to fight now. But I don't think it's going to go very well. They actually do manage to get the kill onto Huzmed, but the Zaya's fallen in her own right. Elio now as well. Glory and Drakthar just going to stay on the fountain, protect the KDAs as the Buffalo take a dominant game 1.